Okay, so now you see here, the previously we have been quickly discussed whatever happened in the previous session. So we given a quick recap. So we have been discussed about the JSONs and JPath and GPath, and now we have been seen how to fetch the path, the access, how to fetch or pass the values from this particular values we have been discussed over here. Now what we wanted to do is, so now here we are able to get this one as manually we are able to get this. But how we need to get it from the automation point of view, or how I need to write this particular code? That's very simple thing which we need to do on this one. If you see here, these 4 lines of code will do this particular manual. Let's see how the things will goes on. So now what I'll try to do, so I'm taking an existing project, so that already we have explained here. So but however, I'll explain in detail on this one. Okay. So now what I'll try to do, I'll write here, I'll try to create a particular class file. So this particular class file is, I'll be writing it as reading JSON data. Okay, so this is what the class file which I wanted to write it over here. So now I have been created this particular class file, and now I wanted to read that particular JSON data, right? Now before doing this one, there are many things we need to fetch it out. So now for using this particular, means accessing the data from with the help of JSON path. So these are the 2 dependencies which we need to download it. So one is JSON path, because we are using the JSON path to access this one, right? So you need to have this particular plugin. So where you need to go and fetch this one, go to your Maven repository. In the Maven repository, just go here, Maven repository, and here you can write as JSON-path. So you'll be getting this particular JSON-path. So this is from the Jyway. So Jyway is a company, so who has been introduced our rest assured. So those guys has been given this particular JSON path. So now just you need to click on this, and once you go here, you'll be getting that respective version. Click on the 2.6 or the latest version. Just take this particular JSON path. And have you taken, as soon as you taken the JSON path, JSON Smart also will be the part of this one. But for newer versions, it was not coming properly. So that's the reason it's better to add this particular plugin also into the as part of dependencies. Now what you need to take, so take these 2 dependencies, go to your pom.xml file. In the pom.xml file, add those particular both the dependencies over here. So these are the dependencies which you JSON this is what the JSON path, and this is what the JSON Smart. So just add that particular dependencies over here, and then update that particular project over here. So just what you need to do, go and then Maven and then update the project. So as soon as you add it, it would be added, and then it would be updated. Okay. So now what I have did, so just to make the capabilities to read the JSON path values, I first wanted the plugins. I went to the Maven repository. I got this JSON path and JSON Smart plugins and have been added over here. That's the first step which we have been done.
Why JSON Smart?
This is an inbuilt package for the JSON path. When we try to use this particular JSON path, we are getting a few errors in the project. So actually inbuilt JSON path will call the JSON Smart, but it was not working properly. That's the reason we have been added separately to avoid few errors. So actually, if you add this one, it's enough. But based upon few errors and things, we have started adding this dependency. So we came across that particular issue, and then this is what the solution they asked us to add this particular plugin so that we will not encounter with those issues. Then we have been added. So this is what the one of the dependency missing in the JSON path. So that's where we are getting the issues. So now we have added this particular dependency. When you using the JSON path, use the JSON Smart plugin also, so that you will not have that particular issues. Then we started using both the dependencies. Okay, so we got these dependencies, we added into the pom.xml file, and that's it. Now you can go and write your Excel data. Sorry, you can go and write your code, and then we can get. So now for an example, I'll show what we have been written previously. I'll just copy this particular test case, and don't worry, I'll explain you in detail on this one. Okay, to save the time because it's already 10:24. So I'll just try to explain the code down here. Now, what we are trying to do. So first we want means this is what my class file, and this is testng enabled file. So that's the reason I was checking it. See, as soon as the test you have it, so you will be having two imports. One is from the JUnit by default, you'll be getting it. At the same point of time, you'll be getting this particular thing from the testng also. So now I'll just try to add that particular thing, import from the testng annotation, not from the JUnit annotation. Okay, I added that. So now I have used the testng annotation. Okay, now this is what the test case. Now for this test case, I just printed some system.println access JSON data. So I just said that JSON data I wanted it. And the JSON string. See, now previous means as of now I was copying this particular JSON string. Else you will be having a separate file in your list. So from there you can get that access that one. So just to access that particular part means either you can directly access as a file or either you can access as a JSON string. So if you understand with the JSON string, accessing as a file would be a one-line change. So now what you can do is in the same project you can create you can create as a test data folder, and in the test data folder you can create as a config file. See, this is how the config file you can keep it, and you can paste all your the JSON string over here. Not all, the JSON string only. So this is what the JSON string. Where is that JSON string? So did I close all? Where are you from? So you wanted this one, right? So just you will take this all and then copy this JSON file. So this is what your original implementation. So now you'll go here into the file and the control A, copy, delete, config. So now you'll have all your test data will be in the config file. So this is how you will be there and you will be reading it. So first try to understand from the string, and it is very easy to access either as a string or either as a file. So now first we will see it as a string. Now what I did is, so just have been taken the copied that particular string, right? And then I have been pasted over here. So as soon as I pasted from there to there, so by default it will have this particular /or/ins. What is this /or/ins? Why we require this? I just pasted it, right? So as soon as I pasted in the JSON configuration file, it pasted as JSON itself. But when I was pasting into the class file, why it was pasting like this /or/in? Guys, you guys are with me? Why it was pasted as this /r/ins and all? Why we are getting the slash before this particular column? See, actually Eclipse is helping us to do this one. You know, right? What you meant by /n?
Next line.
Next line, new, it's not next line, it's a new line. So now we are saying that everything should be in the same line. So because this is a string, in a string, if you wanted to give it in the next line, then you'll be giving it with a written carrier. So this is a /r is a written carrier, /n is a new line. So it was saying that, boss, you can go for the next line. And here we are saying that next line, next line, next line, next line. It's a, sorry, new line, new line. It was saying that it is a continuation. So all these strings, it should be in a one single line. As we don't have it in a single line, in a multiple lines, by default, actually in previous versions of the Eclipse, we need to add this all. Can you imagine that everywhere I need to add this one, how much time I need to spend? So Eclipse has been taken this responsibility in adding these new lines. And whenever you
now
have the,
we are just copying it, right? Like if we copy that JSON file, it will change it to this format. Is it like that?
That's it. See, now for an example, now I deleted this. Okay. Now I need to see now which JSON I need to pass. Any JSON I can pass now, right? So now that particular JSON string I need to paste it over here. So now I just went here and I copied that particular. Okay, I went to here. I'm copying this. See, now I was copying this complete JSON, copy, and come here and then paste here. As soon as I paste it, by default it will take these things. Nothing you
Okay.
need to worry about it. So that's the string. As the string is coming in the next lines, and then this particular slashes is coming in the next lines, it will be by default it will add the slash r and slash n. So
What
now
is slash
all
r? Slash r?
return carriage. So the
Okay,
return
okay, got it.
carriage will be it will say that it is the continuation. It will talk about the return carriage. Slash n will say that it's a new line. So it will say that it would be a new line. Actually, when you have been learning your operators, at that point of time, you'll be encountering with this slash r and slash n's. Okay. So now here we are saying that if everything is in the single like straight line, for an example, now if you see here, I have a string. So now if I have this particular string, that will not have any problem. But if I given it in the second line, so then it will throw me in an error. So at that point of time, we will be adding this slash n and slash r's. So that it was trying to say that, boss, I will be having it in the next lines. So now as we have double quotes, now in a string itself, I have the double quotes. See, now it will throw me the errors. See, so whenever we have these double slashes, so what we need to do is we need to use the black slash so that it can understand that, oh, this backslash means even internally also I have an string. So that's how it will understand. So that is the reason these slashes and all things has been added. So usually we should do that, but actually this has been taken care by the Eclipse itself to add this one. Okay, so now you see the same JSON file I have been added over here. So now the JSON was into this particular string. So now if you see here, this is a string where I wanted to parse and get these particular values, which I wanted to do. Now here we need to know few, I told you right, 4 lines we need to learn from this one. The first one is the document context. Document context is an interface. So if you see here, this is an interface and then it was having it. So from where this particular document context we got it? From the JSON path. Now you remember, right? So now we have been just imported the package. So that particular package, jva.json path, in this particular package, you have this particular interface. Now you are what we are trying to do for this particular interface object, we are trying to access from the JSON path class method. So now what is this particular method will do is it's parse. Now if you see here in this particular JSON path class, so in JSON path class we do have all these methods are available. If you see here, these particular methods are getting here, read that particular JSON and write that particular JSON, parse that particular JSON. You have all these particular methods are available over here. So now if you see here, so this is what the JSON class, and see the JSON class extends what. So now, sorry, this is what the JSON path class. So now this is JSON path class which we have been used, and no need to worry about this. These all things are not really required for us. Just you need to know that. So when you have been imported the JSON path, so JSON path, first what we are trying to do is for this interface object, we are giving this particular child class memory and loading all this data into this particular object. Now we are passing the JSON string which we created now here. So the JSON string was sent it to the parse method. So the parse method will be called, means where is this particular parse method? This is in the JSON class. So this class have this method, and for this particular parse method, I need to pass the variable string. So that particular variable, I have been passed over here. Now this all values will be loaded into this. So this is like exactly the by class. You remember it previously we discussed, right? By class created an object with the help of the particular by class. We are calling the XPath and then that value. We wanted to store these all values into this particular object. Now this is what the same example. Now with the help of this particular class, with the help of JSON path class having the parse method with the JSON string, we taken all these data and then loaded into this particular interface object. So now JSON reader will have all the information, whatever this particular JSON path is there. So instead of this, if you the string, you can give the URL also. Now you see in the method, right? URL or the file which you wanted to parse. So if it is in a file, then you will be having that file parser. You will be giving the file path. See, read the file. You are seeing the file name, right? So here, read file or parse file. Parse file. Just
Sir,
a file
difference
path.
between read and parse. The parse is like we are accessing that data. Read is also the same, right? We are going to
There
access
is,
this.
I'll give you the difference between the read and parse. So parse is it will fetch the data. Read means only it reads the data. I'll give you the differences between the read and parse at the end of the session. Okay.
Yeah,
So as of now, you mean what do you meant by this particular parse? If you see here, so parse give the JSON input default value, means it will just return the means based upon whatever the path string you have been given. So that will give you back the value. So that particular value you will be getting. So now let's see what it will happen over here. Now I read it into this particular JSON. So now into this one, I need to means I'll have my complete JSON string. Now what I wanted to do is, this is my JSON path class, and see here what I'm trying to do. The first command, reading the complete JSON into an object. So that is what the step we have been done. So reading the complete JSON into the object. Now what I need to do is the query to trigger. So now what is a query? Now this particular path I know, right? So in the online evaluator, so we are able to get that particular thing, right? So how I need to get all the authors or the book title, I wanted to get it. So that particular I wanted to give it over here. Now what I wanted to do is, so here I wanted to get all this data and then I need to store it into a variable, right? So for that one, what I'm trying to do, for this particular JSON path class, I was trying to create a particular variable, and for this particular variable, what I'm trying to load into this variable is, so JSON path class dot compile. So this particular method will trigger that particular query and then fetch the data, and then it will store into this particular variable. Now what the data I wanted to fetch it from here, I wanted to get all the titles. So now that particular titles will be stored into the authors. Because I changed the queries multiple times, so that's where it was coming like this. I'll say that all titles. Okay, now all titles. Okay, I'll just see this. So now what I'm trying to do, first I have been read the JSON into this particular object. Next one is the query to compile. So this is what the particular query which I need to compile this and have this complete data into this particular variable now. So I have the JSON reader, means the complete data I have been read into this particular string, and which query I need to trigger. So I have been stored into this particular string. Now I need to join this and this, right? So querying from the JSON object. So now this JSON object have the complete JSON string, and this will have the complete query. So now this query I need to trigger it from trigger into this particular JSON. So that is what I'm doing it. So now the JSON reader here, and here I'm trying to read that particular value, the read method. I'm passing this particular query over here, and I'm trying to convert into the string. So now I'm converting all the values into a string and then storing into a string value. That's it. So now if you see here, now once this particular values will comes over here, I'll not do the assertions as of now. Now let's do this. See, once again, only 3 steps we have it, guys. Read the complete data into the JSON object, means whatever the JSON string we have been read into the object, and what the query we need to trigger, so that we have been kept into this particular into this particular JSON path object, and then on this particular reader, so this particular query we have been triggered, and then we converted into the string, and then we stored into the value. Now let's see what it will try to print for us. So now if you see here the values, so it printed me the lot of things. So this is how I read. See, now this is what the thing which I wanted it, right? So I wanted the book 3 title. So this is how I'm able to get the book 3 title. Now I wanted the book 2 title. So now just give this one and then execute this. It will give me the book 2 title. Okay, now we want the author names. So now just you need to come here, the author. So now if you give this and execute this, you will get the author name. So Herman Melville. So you'll be getting the author name. So now just you need to change with this particular strings, you are fetching that particular data and then you are accessing that data with this one. So in the JSON reader file, trigger that particular query and convert into the string and store the value, you are able to do it. Now what I'll try to do, I'll keep all these things into a single method. Now for this method, what you need to pass, this ID only you need to pass. If you pass this particular ID, the return of that method would be the value. I'll give it. So this is how the JSON generic files should be created. So now for you, everything will goes into a method, and for this particular method, you will be getting this particular. Just you need to pass for that. The input for that method is this, and the return of that particular method, you will be getting the value of this. Just you need to use it wherever you want. So that's how this would be implemented. And all these particular 4 lines of code and everything is already there in the repository, and then we have been shared. So any questions around this one, guys?